Hi, everybody, and welcome to Men Having Babies Presents Perspectives Family Pride. We are so happy to have everybody here. Happy Juneteenth to our American friends joining us today. If you're not familiar with Men Having Babies, I want to introduce myself. My name is Lisa Schuster. I am the Director of Programming. Also from Men Having Babies here today is Ron Diane, who is our founder and executive director and also a father through surrogacy. You'll be hearing a little bit more from him in a few. Men Having Babies is a nonprofit, and our goal really is to make parenthood a wider reality. We have a number of programming, educational programs, and also programs like this. This is part of our Perspective series, and we really hope to share a lot of different viewpoints and perspectives and an opportunity to get to know families better, to understand what it might look like for your family as you hope to have children or as your children grow. We'll be having more of these webinars throughout the year, and we hope that you will be able to join for that. We also have a number of programs to really help you through a surrogacy journey. We have some great dads here today, and they are always so excited to hear the story, but we know that many of you guys are looking at these parents and thinking, is this possible for me? And the usual barrier in that is financial. And it's a really important part of our mission here at Men Having Babies to help lower those financial barriers, to make this possible for everybody. And we absolutely could not do that without the support of amazing partners. If you have not been to our website, if you have not joined our membership, I really recommend that you do. There's a huge amount of providers in this industry that are here to help offer their support through Men Having Babies to make this journey possible for all of you, so that in 5 years and 10 years, you're sitting here like our panelists are with your children. And I'm so excited to announce one of our new partnerships and one of our most expansive benefits that we are offering, not only to recipients of our Gay Parenting Assistance Program, but to our members as well, is that we're unveiling a brand new pharmaceutical benefit to help lower the cost of egg donor medications through Braun Pharmacare. This is really the first time our members have had access to pharmaceutical discounts, and there is really more substantial savings available to our recipients of both stage 1 and stage 2 in our Gay Parenting Assistance Program. So I wanted to welcome Brett Pine, who is the president of Braun Pharmacare, to come on and say a few words about Braun and introduce yourself so our members can get to know you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I greatly appreciate it. I'm very excited for all this. Prepared about a 60-second type of intro and our appreciation kind of moment here. I first want to send a big thank you to Men Having Babies for the opportunity to introduce Braun Pharmacare and our new fertility pharmacy partnership with all of you. My name is Brett Pine, and I've been fortunate to work with many prospective parents for the past 20 years while being the owner and president of Braun. This is quite an honor to be speaking to all of you, and I am super excited for the ability for our team to work with all of these men to help them achieve their goals of building their family. The paramount goal of Braun is to ensure everyone we have the privilege to work with receives exceptional service with a genuine personal touch, enabling everyone to have the best experience possible on this important journey you are on. Our team includes many members of the LGBTQ community, including those with personal experience in third-party reproduction. To all the Men Having Baby dads already out there, thank you for paving the way for the rest of the members we are proud to be partnering with. The example you have set shows everyone the potential for success to be right around the corner for the rest of you. You're an inspiration to all of us and are showing so many others the way forward. Our team at Braun has amazingly unique opportunity to provide the biggest positive impact I know of. We are along the ride in helping you all have a baby. We take large pride in this ability, and no better time to pay homage to that than during LGBTQ Pride Month. Our pharmacy will be with your donors and surrogates every step of the way for their medication needs while keeping the intended fathers updated. We make this process as seamless as possible by coordinating with your clinic and agency and combining this with heavily discounted products, 24/7 medication administration, counseling opportunities, and making this all easily accessible. Thank you again to Men Having Babies and all of the members for allowing us to be a part of this. We look forward to showing all of you that at Braun, we truly care about your success, which makes us more than just a pharmacy. thank you and best of luck to you all. I really appreciate the opportunity to join all of this. You guys are amazing.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have you here today. And we are so thankful for this partnership and the support that Ron has offered, not only through making this possible for our members and our GPAP recipients, but through an additional level of support and sponsorship to the through our conferences and our grant program here at Men Having Babies. This really is what makes all of this possible for us to be able to help our members and everybody make it through the journey to make as many families as possible. So thank you so much for your support. If you guys have questions about accessing those pharmaceutical benefits, we do have some information on our website, but we'll be giving more information to all of our members through communication. As always, if you have questions about anything to do with membership, please don't hesitate to email us members@menhavingbabies.org. Any of your questions, we are always happy to answer that and point you guys in the right direction. So with that, I want to turn it over to Ron to get us started here and introduce our amazing panelists here today.
Thank you so much, Lisa. This is part of our online open to all series of webinars we call Perspectives, where we bring perspectives of dads, surrogates. It'll be also egg donors and other related perspectives in the future about topics that are typically both about the process of becoming parents and about what is still very relevant for us as parents. And today is one of those where we're going to talk about something that I'm sure some prospective parents already think about, but certainly families do. And let me also mention that we don't just have online events, we're going to have in-person events starting the fall again. And for the New Yorkers among you, there will be an in-person event next weekend on the 27th, just a week and a day from now, in New York at Pride Fest. Lisa and I and other of our teams and volunteers and families are going to be there. So please look us up if you are around and want to celebrate Pride with us in person. We'll have prizes and performances or whatever. So that's about the future. The topic for today is something that's very dear to me. I'm not going to be in panel, but I just want to say how we kind of like start thinking about it. It's, you know, when you have kids of various ages, and our twins, I'm a father through surrogacy, and our kids are 20 years old, you know, have been coming to Pride with us even when we had to schlep a porta potty so that they can stop at the side of the march and do their business when they were being potty trained. But later kept coming and they loved the celebration. But at some point, you know, they asked, you know, who's the Martin Luther King of the gays? Or that, you know, when we took them to a demonstration, and like they start realizing that this is not just about, you know, a party. And later they started, you know, mostly it was a son actually that said, wait, but I'm not gay, you know, so, you know, how do I relate to that? I mean, and they still, you know, would participate, but it became something that they thought of in a different way, because we're a minority and we're a community, but the question is it a multi-generational community? Or is it something that, you know, our kids, you know, may one day feel less, you know, related to? This is why we came up with this topic, and it's really almost like a reunion in the sense that all the people here on the panel are people who've been involved with Men Having Babies very deeply throughout the years, and I'm so glad. And naturally also have kids of, you know, that are older or still various age groups, and also from different backgrounds as far as the communities, the cultures they live in. And we thought that this could facilitate a better discussion in that regard. So Frank Nelson, a board member of Men Having Babies, you can wave. Frank is a dad through surrogacy in Canada with his partner, and their son is about to turn 7 years old. So that's one age group. Anthony, are you on, Anthony? Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm here.
So Anthony Brown, of course, our founding board member, board chair, and living in New York with his partner. and their son is about to turn 12. Then we have Jens from Germany. You can wave Jens, and Jens has kids who are 13 and 6. And of course, it'll be interesting to hear, at least from one European perspective, about his experience. And we have Udi, who is currently in the Bay Area, but originally from Israel. And Udi's kids are 8, and also they also have twins that are 6 years old. I see you have all this information here and also on the event page. And Udi was the chair of the Israeli Gay Fathers Association, with whom we collaborate in Israel. Jens is the chair of VFLLD in Germany. And as I mentioned, they've all been intimate part of our programs throughout the year, and we're so happy to have them. And then we have our leader tonight, this afternoon, unless we have people joining us from Europe, Elliot, who's a therapist and a writer, and has been part of our programs throughout the years by helping us facilitate some sessions, including the session we typically have in our in-person conferences about having a child as an intended parent. And I will pass this on to you now, Elliot. Thank you so much for agreeing to be with us and moderating and leading this panel.
Thanks. And just a quick reminder, because I forgot to say, if anybody has questions as we go through, feel free to use that Q&A panel, and we'll try to get to some questions at the end, or put in the chat if you have any questions there. But I would let Elliot take it away.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm really excited that we're having this conversation today. It is not lost on me that we're doing it on Juneteenth, a day here in the United States where we really acknowledge human rights and social justice. And so it feels really powerful to do it on this day. I'm excited about this panel. Several of you I've had lots of conversations with. Some of you I've seen your kids when they were very young. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. My children are old. My daughter is 16. My son is 20. He doesn't live at home anymore. He has his own apartment. He's off living his life. And we're getting ready to be complete empty nesters in a short bit of time. So it's really interesting to have this conversation with some guys who are very much all across the spectrum. And I think that that's going to be important for this conversation as we talk about what the experience is. So I want to open up though first with, let's start really generally. What do your kids think Pride is about? Like, how do they relate to it?
I will start, if you don't mind.
Please.
My son is almost 12, and pretty much every year, my husband and I, we started in the early 2000s in the marriage equality movement, have been very active and have really seen Pride as a way to memorialize the events of the recognition that our community has had and the equality that we continue to gain, and also the obstacles that we're still overcoming. So we had a tradition in our family where we would bring a ladder up to our roof. We live in the West Village. We would climb over 6 roofs, bring a ladder back down, and get to the corner of Christopher and Bleecker, which used to be ground zero for gay pride. So our son grew up thinking that gay pride was this amazing overview of people cheering and laughing and singing and celebrating. And as he gets older, and as he's now in middle school, even though COVID has changed the way that he's experienced middle school, it's remarkable to me how much he is learning about not only what pride is, what tolerance is. There are GSA groups at his school. They celebrate all of the holidays, and they really, in the curriculum, talk about what social justice is. So I'm just at the beginning now of him making that transition from Pride is a day when, my dads are really happy and they're celebrating, to, wow, it has a deeper meaning. So those conversations are just beginning to start with us, and I can't wait. I have heard Ron describe his relationship and watch his children grow up and turn into these incredible adults. And I feel like we're on the cusp of that now, and I'm really excited to watch that with my son.
What about others? What does Pride mean to your kids?
I'm happy to go next. Hey, everyone. So we're originally from Tel Aviv, Israel. In the last 3 years, we've been living here in San Francisco, which is kind of a unique experience. You know, one of the epicenters of the gay community with the Harvey Milk legacy and everything around here. The school where my kids go to, they have a pride flag on the flag post all year round. It is right next to the US flag and also next to the Israel flag, since they go to a Jewish school. And that was honestly one of the reasons I chose that school for them. I'm like, okay, this is where my kids are going to go, because those are 3 parts of our identity now. We're living in the US. My children were born here in the US. We're originally from Israel. And of course, we're a proud family. So I love that. And they learn about the LGBT community sort of year round, and especially around Pride Month. The last live Pride March here in San Francisco was before COVID in 2019, where we were fortunate enough to all march as a family with a group organized by the kids' school. So there were straight, as far as I know, staff members leading the march down Market Street in San Francisco. And it was a very emotional Pride March for me. I mean, I've marched in dozens of these in Tel Aviv, but this one was kind of special to see the type of support that the entire school community was coming together to give these children. Some of them, I mean, the kids today at the school, even in the lower school, not to mention middle school, they identify as gender fluid and other, you know, colors of the rainbow. And together with staff members, teachers, and parents who are a part of the community, just all marching together. That was very, very special. My 6-year-old son, he's also kind of non-binary. If you ask him if he's a boy or a girl, you'll confuse him, because he's like, I don't know, I'm a boy who wants to be a girl, or I'm neither, or I'm both, depending on which day you ask him. But you'll never get a straight answer, pun intended. And he has a pride flag in his room, which he loves playing with. And he says, like, this is a flag about boys marrying boys. And that's his view at 6-year-old. And it's definitely changing over the years. So I'll pause there to give others a chance as well.
Frank or Jens?
I can go next. I mean, really interesting perspective that people are sharing here already. Yeah, I'm happy to provide my perspective. My husband and I, we live in Germany. Our kids were born in the States, so they're binational. And we often go back and forth. So, and I lived in the Bay Area, actually myself, I lived in the Bay Area for 10 years. Actually, and I developed this idea of having kids, you know, basically I developed this idea over there. I think in Germany, it would have been impossible really to develop this idea at this time. And Ron mentioned we've been involved with Men Having Babies over the years quite a bit, helping other families, obviously in Europe, because not everybody is so fortunate to live in a space in an area where you know, you can discuss and you have the options, you have role models. So we're hoping to be role models in Europe now. But to answer your question, you know, for us it was really you know, a turning point, having kids, because having kids really catapults you into the center of society suddenly. You know, I mean, mostly obviously at our school we have heterosexual you know, parents all around us. I mean, we are the only ones in the school actually with 2 dads. There's one other couple living down you know, at the other side of town, kind of. And you know, with kids, I mean, of course, gay couples, there's a lot more, but you're suddenly in the middle of society, and our kids, they also want to be part of they want to be in the center of society, and they should be, because that was our struggle, you know, for 50 years. We want to be part of it, and having kids is very much you know, that means very much being part of a full part of the society. And yeah, at the same time, our kids, they also feel, of course, that we're special, you know, that we are a special family, and partly because we talk a lot about our families so much. You know, we've done a documentary, we've written a book, and my kids, they get you know, asked in school, you know, why were you on television, and why are you talking about you know, your family? So in that sense, they feel proud, but it very much relates to us as a family, and it's not that much for them being part of the LGBTQ plus community. I think our kids are, at least that's my guess, they are heterosexual, both of them, and so it's more that, you know, that they're proud of being our kids, and not so much of the community. But at the same time, yeah, of course we take them to events. One other point that's maybe different for us than for the kids that are socialized in the US. For us, Pride doesn't relate so much to the events 50 years ago. It relates to the Holocaust, you know, and what happened to people during the war, to gay people during the war. And in fact, my daughter was confronted only about a few months ago in high school by a classmate who confronted her, telling her, you know, that you would have been you would have been gassed, you know, like 50 years ago, not 50, 70 years ago during the war. You and your parents, you would have been gassed. And she came home and she was devastated, you know, and she cried, and we talked to her about all of this. So so in that sense, yes, she realizes she's special. We are a special family. It's less about pride. It's more about being aware of history, and you know, and that you need to be aware of prejudice and those types of things. But I pause here, and yeah, as you say, give others a chance to.
Yeah. Frank, what's your story?
Well, I think it's interesting for us also, us too. I mean, Milo was sort of thrust into the public eye upon birth. It was where he was born on World Pride here in Toronto. We hosted it in 2014, and a photo was put up on the internet of him. We had a photographer in the birth room of me holding him skin to skin, and it was shared about 10 million times over the next week. So within the first week of his life, Milo was on the news constantly. We had the news here every day. So he's kind of been used to the fact, and because of that, it gave us a platform to talk, and we created a website called Families About Love, and we blog about our life, and we try and just make, you know, being gay parents a lot more visible. And over the years, we continually talk on TV. So Milo sort of knows, you know, that we talk about it. He's very interested, but whenever we talk about the flag, like behind us, he thinks it's called Families About Love flag because he sees us talking. So he thinks it's about us, like others have said. He's not completely understanding what Pride's about. And because the last 2 years, we used to only take him really to Family Pride, which was a smaller event at the community center, the gay community center. Like this year has been interesting because we've also written a couple children's books, and we've done 4, because I think all the schools here are still shut down here in Canada. So all of them are looking at ways to celebrate Pride. So we did 4 book readings over the last week of our book to different classes. And Milo joined me on all of them. So he's starting to get a different perspective. I'm really trying to get him to be an educator as well. And he's amazing. Me and my husband are both teachers. So he comes by it, I think, naturally. But so I think we're trying to teach him that, you know, Pride is about giving back and teaching and educating others about acceptance and love. So, and that's what we've been talking about to other schools. So I think that's what he thinks about.
You know, it's really interesting to hear all of you talk about where your kids are at. My kids being so much older, it feels somewhat different. When my kids were younger, I live in the Boston area, so we'd go to P-Town for Family Pride. You know, Boston had a really vibrant Pride parade. And what was interesting is that very early, actually even before my daughter was born, here in Boston, we had a whole big court case regarding whether gay men could foster and adopt children. And so my son became a big person in the news talking about what it was to be raised by 2 men. And so my children learned really early on that Pride was an event that we did in the summer. Pride was a week that we did when we were on vacation. But Pride was also a state of being. And as my children are older now, my son, 20, doesn't live at home anymore, is at university. And, you know, he wants to go to medical school. And part of it is because he really wants to work and help people who are othered. Not necessarily gay people, but he has this concept of what it means to be othered. My daughter, who is in high school, is a fierce social justice warrior, and has a reputation at school as being the one who's going to speak out, the one who organizes groups. And so for my children, now that they're older, Pride is not an event. It is a way that they view the world. And it's not just about having gay parents anymore. It's become this bigger context. Have you noticed that having children has changed the definition of Pride for you? Like, how has having children changed it for you?
Well, I mean, obviously, I can't speak for everyone else. It's obviously not about the parties anymore. Since we've had Milo, like I said, we go to family pride, we take a walk. I have no issue with Milo seeing any of the amazing things that you might see at a pride parade. And I welcome it because I want him to have an open mind to everyone and everything. And even recently, you're speaking to neighbors, they don't like the pride parade. We're lucky enough to now speak to parents that call us around Pride to talk about their own children that are coming out. Just things have changed so much. I mean, I love that we spent Pride this year talking to classrooms of grade 1, 2, and 3 kids and teaching them about what it means to us and what it means to be gay, and having them ask Milo, what's it like to have 2 gay dads? I mean, that question dumbfounded him because he only knows 2 gay dads. He doesn't know any difference. And Milo, we're lucky that Milo hasn't ever expressed a longing for a mother or felt that he doesn't have something that other kids have. As a matter of fact, we've heard the opposite from his friends' parents, where they come to us and say, they found out that you have 2 dads and they want to know why they can't have 2 dads, their friends. So it's nice. So it's changed completely, and in a good way.
How have others started to think about Pride differently since becoming?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with your kids. What you're how you're describing your kids, that they're engaged themselves. I haven't noticed in my kids actually. Both of them, they are, as I mentioned, they really want to be. I think they have this need. They want to be like everyone else. I mean, they're not hiding anything, but they are. They don't want to be. They don't want to be at the center of attention, actually, if they had the choice. But what it has changed for me, it's not about the parties anymore. I totally agree. I haven't been in one for since 12 years, I would say, or 13 years since my daughter was born. But it's really about telling the story, and I think there is still this need to tell the story, because we are still a minority. Gays with kids. There's so many gays out there that would like to have kids. That's I can say that for Europe. And they don't get the information, because there is this topic of legality about surrogacy. Obviously, in Germany, for example, we have laws that are very restrictive, like in many parts of the US, I know, but here in Germany, certainly it's difficult. So there is not a lot of information. So we're trying to provide this information, and this is where my kids actually do come in, or my daughter starts to come in to tell her story. But generally speaking, they're still reluctant. But yeah, it's for me, it's about telling our story still, and it has changed. We're realizing that it has changed over the last 10 years. In Germany, there's a lot more features on television. There's books out there. People know finally what this is, because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people were basically they're flushed, when they heard surrogacy. They thought this was something that happened in Ukraine or in India. Nothing against these countries, but we know that there's some limitations to some of these countries organizing surrogacy in a fair way. But yeah, so finally it's out there, and people at least know more about it. And I think we were part of this movement.
Jens, I'd love to just comment quickly on something you said that I think is interesting about, you talked about your children not liking to be the center of attention and trying to be like everyone else. I identify with part of that perspective, and just want to take it in a slightly different angle. I think all children and all adults want to fit in, right? We want to belong. We want to be part of a community. That is awesome. I think one of the things that we are trying to instill in our children, and of course, it has everything and nothing to do with the fact that we're, a pride family, is advocating for those who are being excluded. I'll give, a couple of tiny examples, both on the not assuming people's orientation, but also on gender roles. So from age 0, we've been raising our children on assumptions that there is no such thing as girls' colors and boys' colors. There's no such thing as girls' clothes and boys' clothes. There's no such thing as girls' hairstyles and boys' hairstyles. And after, as soon as they started going to childcare at age, 15 months, they started coming home at age 2 and saying, oh, but dolls are for girls and the swords are for boys and blue is for boys. And after 1,000 times of correcting them, no less than 1,000 times, I'm sure it's been more, I'm finally seeing the fruits of that labor. And when they're playing and someone on the playground will say, oh, that's for boys or that's for girls, my daughter will stop and say, there is no such thing as toys for boys and toys for girls. And my son is actually growing out his hair, which we support. And every now and then he dresses up in a skirt and ponytails to go to school. And we love that. And he proudly takes questions about that and explains that there's no such thing as girls' clothes and boys' clothes. And I think that's a tiny role that we can play in just bettering the society that they're growing up in, which I love. So it's not about, I think, being center of attention. It's about advocating for those who are, silently thinking, oh, but I'm a girl, but I'd love to play with that sword, or I'm a boy and I'd love to play with that doll. Make that okay and normalize that for everyone.
Great.
Yeah, being more sensitive, I think, to that understanding, that societal understanding. I'm going through a bit of the same thing. I'm a donor dad, and my 16-year-old child prefers to be referred to as they. Growing up, it was always she, and I correct myself all the time, but they are now their own person. They're incredible, and I'm learning so much from them about it. And one of the things that I don't think I anticipated before having children about how pride changed for me was that it really became kind of an everyday thing. I came out a while ago. I went through my own issues in coming out, and and very happily made it to the other side of it. But when you have a kid, it's almost like you're coming out every day, and that aspect of pride, particularly when you have a young child and you're two dads are completely focused on the well-being of this infant, and other people see that. It was very difficult at the beginning for me not to impose my own kind of throwback fears on when I was coming out and what other people were going to think of me, which is interesting. I remember one time we were at a fast food restaurant, and we had to change Nicholas's diaper. And I saw this woman kind of eyeing us from the corner. And I thought in my head, okay, here it comes. And she started walking over to us. And I braced myself. I don't think Gary, my husband, saw it, but she said in a very low voice, I just want to let you know, my granddaughter is a lesbian, and I really want her to have children. It was like totally the opposite reaction that I was expecting. I mean, when you give the people the chance to accept you, and we all learn this ourselves going through the coming out process, you'd be surprised at the way that they do. And I think that also applies to, letting our children become their own people and honoring that and their own journey through it. But I think I realized that pride wasn't just something that happened, in the month of June. It was something that happened throughout the year for us.
What's really interesting about this is that listening to all of you with younger children, it seems that your children have a more expressive language around these things. When I first started having children, we didn't have a lot of language. It was about being gay. It was a one issue topic. And what did it mean to be a gay man with a child? And one of the things that I'm loving listening to all of you is that the conversation has expanded dramatically, and the language for the children has expanded dramatically. And noticing that there's this intersectionality. It's not just this one issue anymore. It's about the entirety of being in the entirety of the community. And for me, that energizes me, gives me hope, makes me excited about the future. and what's ahead for our children. But there's something here that I'm not quite clear on that I'm hoping that, and all of you just jump right in and give me your thoughts on this, but do your children see themselves as part of the community? And if so, how? So for example, my older son would describe himself as an ally, whereas my daughter would describe herself as an integral part of the community. They define themselves very, very differently in their relationship with the community. How do your kids relate?
I think a lot of it depends also on the age of the kids. I mean, as I mentioned, Greta is 13 now. She could feel part of the community already. I think she doesn't actually. So she doesn't feel as part of the LGBTQ plus community because she doesn't identify as gay. At least I believe so. I mean, she's very much entering puberty now, and I totally agree with the fact that yes, the awareness is there for tolerance and stepping in for the weak, and she's very much like that. And I think that's all of our kids, because we're gay, we grew up in this way, and I think we give this to our kids, and they can't not learn this perspective in life, and that's their big advantage, I believe, but still, no, she doesn't believe she's part of that community. And an ally, yeah, of course she will be an ally, but she wouldn't it wouldn't be her wish to go to a Pride event. At least she hasn't.
If I could just question you on that, do you think that she's an ally by choice or by circumstance because this is her family? How, can you explain, can you pull that apart a little bit for us? 13 years old is a really interesting age. Anthony, your son's right about that same age too. I'm curious to know what you would say. But are the kids at that age, is it because of family relationship or because they're understanding the issues and have values around it?
Well, puberty is very much about finding out who they are. So it's really a little bit too early, perhaps. And I mean, she's my oldest child, so I don't know how it is. I don't know how it feels to have a 20-year-old or a 16-year-old.
Exhausting.
So,
it's exhausting,
yeah,
Jeff.
I'm very much excited, of what comes. Right now, I don't know. She's in puberty and she's trying to figure out who she is, and we're trying to be as open as we can and offer her as much as we can. And so let's see, how this turns out. The 6-year-old, he is, I mean, he's a child, and again, I think he also gets this message of step in for the weak and all of that. I think he gets that message because this is how we are, this is how this is the story that we tell. But I don't think it's on his mind, whether he is an ally or he doesn't understand. So he's a child.
Anthony, how's it in your house?
Yeah, Jens, I have to agree that I think Nick is on this side of puberty. He has not quite, gotten into that. He has some friends who are going, entering those stages. So I think he is still understanding who he is. He is presented with opportunities all the time. At one point, there was a meeting at his middle school when we went to look at his middle school in New York. It's crazy. You have to apply to middle schools. Mm-hmm. It's not just you go to the middle school in your area. And so we were touring middle schools, and it was Gay Straight Alliance month at the school when we went to tour. And he loved it. And he found the ballet studio and he danced and he found his locker. It was fantastic. This year, when he had the opportunity to I asked him if he wanted to join the Gay Straight Alliance. He said, no, I'm okay. I think he's just learning about where he is, and he's a witness to, all of the things that my husband and I do in the community, but he's still on this side of finding where his place is in it. And I love Udi, the atmosphere that you've created for your children to become whoever they are. I think that is absolutely wonderful and so refreshing. And as you said, Elliot, it's a sign of how our communities expanded in a way to define inclusion in ways that we certainly, I think, would have foresaw when we were, coming out or at the beginning of it. So I'm just very happy to see the opportunities that our kids have and that the ones that their parents are providing for them.
Yeah, I just want to throw a quick comment in there for both Jens and Anthony, and for you too, Udi and Frank. Curious what you think, because we know that adolescence, there's one job when you're an adolescent, right? Which is to differentiate from your family and to affiliate with your peers. Like that's your whole job, right? You go from being the adored parent to the one who doesn't know anything and you're really annoying me. But meanwhile, my friends are perfect and we all have to wear the same sneakers. We all go through this, right? That joy of adolescence. Frank, you're a teacher, you probably see it all the time, right? But how does that change your children's relationships with how they see pride? Because when you grow up in a family that are having these conversations regularly, that not all families do, and you're talking about social issues and you're talking about identity, how do you notice that your kids are connecting with wanting to pull away from you and affiliate with their peers versus how they pull away or relate to the community and the concepts of what our families are centered on? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, actually, Elliot. And fortunately, I don't notice that yet with Greta. I don't notice not a single sign of her pulling back from our story and of her having two dads and all of that. Everything she knows about us and the documentary and the book and all of that, she doesn't pull away from that at all. The pulling back is the puberty pulling back. It's about leave me alone. I'm gonna stay up as long as I want, and I'm eating what I want, and I'm dressing how I want to. It's this typical puberty, and it's about just issues in family day-to-day life, where she pulls back. It's we scream at each other, how can you not scream at a 13-year-old, and of course a 13-year-old will scream at you. I think that's completely, isn't it, completely normal. But so that's the kind of the situation, but it's not that she's pulling away from us as a from the pride issue and from the family story issue, not at all. She was very she frankly spoke about this incident I mentioned, the incident in school. So she was completely on our side, and obviously and shared this with us, and so I'm unfortunately not noticing any of that. Hopefully that was your question, but that's at least what I heard.
Yeah, well, Jens, I'll tell you, I think that you'll, to agree with you, I don't think that parenting adolescents is for the weak, right? It's a process and it's a lot of work. But I think that what it was like for my 20-year-old, for my son, and for my 16-year-old, my daughter, and I think that gender plays into it. I think a lot of things play into it, but very different experiences. And what it was like for me to have children pull away, to really start to create their own identities, to start to realize that this pride family that we had, because when they started moving into that phase of development, we stopped going to pride, we stopped going to family week, we stopped doing the kinds of activities that we did as a family, and it became, we were all on our own unique separate journeys. And what I was able to notice is this is where they really started to differentiate their relationship to the issues and their relationship to how they defined us as a family and how they wanted to engage in the greater society on all of these issues. And they took very divergent paths. And as a parent, it was very interesting to watch how that arc of development happened. And in reflection, I realized it happened a lot earlier than adolescence. Udi, I'm looking at you, look like you have an experience.
Yeah, I just got a I guess a fun perspective. My kids are younger than adolescents. My eldest daughter is 8, and my boy and girl twins are 6. So they're definitely not at that stage yet where, you know, we're giving them a choice to pull away from which events we go to and things like that. But it's just interesting to notice, because we were very intentional about, you know, making them proud of their family, and we never hid anything from them. We always found an age-appropriate way of answering questions, even the tough ones of how they were born. And they, by the way, we're in touch with both of their surrogates, and we meet them on a pretty regular basis. We make an effort to meet both their surrogates, so the kids know them personally, and every year we exchange gifts and things like that. But two quick fun observations. One, when we were living in Israel, and as Ron mentioned in the opening of this panel, I was the co-founder and chair of the Israeli Association of Gay Fathers for 5 years. And we threw together, together with Men Having Babies, quite a few family pride events. I remember, like, every summer we used to do a picnic for proud families. Now, you know, for someone in my 40s who grew up in a very different world, this was a really big deal. Like, wow, we get to come to a picnic where everyone there, every child there has 2 moms or 2 dads, or a single mom or single dad, or part of the community. And we took our daughter, our only daughter at the time, and I was all so excited. I'm like, Tom, we're gonna go to this picnic where all the kids have 2 dads or 2 moms. And she's like, yeah, Dad, it's a picnic. Like, she was trivializing it in a way that initially just annoyed me, that she didn't see how big of a deal this was. But when this happened 2-3 times, I realized that this is actually a success, because she sees absolutely nothing special about this, to the point where we stopped making an effort to go to these Pride family events because she found nothing unique about them. She just wanted to play with her friends from school. She didn't care what their families looked like. So that was one sort of fun observation. And the second one is, you know, I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone here, in the thousands of times that we have to make a choice in the split second. Are we coming out now in response to something that someone asked or said or assumed? And we don't always have the energy, right? Like, if I'm sitting in an Uber and the driver says something about my wife, I might just let it slide because I don't want to have that long discussion right now. And I'm sure we've all been in that situation. So my kids, as far as I've observed, have never once missed an opportunity to bring the whole family out, and in a very big way. And that might change in the future, but I've seen this dozens of times at the playground. If, like, I remember these 2 ladies saw my daughter playing a little bit close to the road. And so the first question was, girl, where's your mom? And so my daughter turns around, gives them a stern look and says, I have 2 dads. And she's always like insulted that they would assume otherwise. And all of my 3 kids never miss a chance to correct people and bring our entire family out. So that, I'll pause there, but I thought it's different how we make that choice, because we sometimes just don't want the headache, but they will always confront it head on.
You know, it's interesting, Udi. 2 years ago, when I was moving my son into university for the first time and moving him into his dorm, and he was in a room, there were four men, 4 boys together. It's so weird to call them men because they're so old now. 4 men in a room. And all the parents were there and were making beds and squeezing into this tight room. And one of the roommate's mothers had said something like, oh, must be nice to give mom a day off, and look at, you can make a bed. And I looked at my son, because I'm like, listen, I'm not going to defend you. I'm not going to explain this, because you're 20. You're like, you're this is your journey. And he went to say something, and his roommate actually goes, Mom, he's got 2 dads. And I thought, wow, that meant that Michael had already communicated to his roommates and already explained it. And his roommates, who had never met us before, were like, Mom, cut it out. And that to me really talked about how my son had gone out and built community in a way I wasn't even aware of. I was actually shocked at the moment. And I thought, oh, this is the moment I don't have to defend him anymore. I don't have to protect him. I don't have to speak for him. And it was a foundational moment in our relationship when we realized that our kids have done the work. And that moment was one of those moments that really changed what pride meant for me, because I realized that my son's relationship to it and his identity was so completely disconnected from mine in that moment. And that was a moment of really letting go. It was amazing.
I was gonna say, I don't know about the other dads, but I think Anthony touched upon it. My coming out was difficult, and there was lots of drugs and rehab and lots of stuff like that. And then when I had a child, for some reason, I became so proud and such an advocate. And if I was embarrassed to hold my husband's hand on the street now, Milo always grabs both of our hands as we walk down the street. And I've had to just do away with, the thoughts that anyone's staring at us or anything like that. And, and I think Anthony said something else. We've had so many people stare at us, and it's very problematic. I really hate it. And oftentimes people will come over and say the nicest thing after staring at us for 20 minutes. They'll say, "You have the most beautiful family." I want to tell them that they didn't need to stare at us for 20 minutes. It makes us, Milo doesn't notice it at all. But I've just noticed how much louder I am now that I'm a dad, like how much prouder I am. And I won't stand for anyone, saying something about me or my family anymore. And we really stand up. And it sorry, I'm gonna cry a little bit, but it touches my heart every time he grabs both of our hands and we walk down the street together. Because I realize he could care less. He doesn't see any of it. And it just makes us so proud. And I couldn't be prouder in those moments, right?
Yeah. Frank, I'll tell you that hopefully that never stops for you. My son still says, and we'd say all the time, "You're never too old to kiss your father." And we met out at a restaurant for dinner the other night, and he leaned in and he kissed me hello. And I thought, it's never too old to kiss your father.
I take pictures now every time he holds our hands because I don't want to forget the feeling, because there's nothing like your kid putting their hand out and grabbing yours.
Yeah. So, we have a few minutes left, and I want to make sure that we get really from your own unique experience. If each of you could take, a couple of minutes and just talk about what you hope for your children as they're continuing to grow and differentiate and becoming their own special, unique people. What do you think that all of this is going to look like 5-10 years from now? And how are you preparing for that?
I'm happy to quickly chime in. I really hope that our children turn out to be, good human beings, spreading love and kindness and care for human beings, whatever shape or color or preference they come in. And whether they end up marching in a Black Lives Matter march or in the Pride March or any of the other important social causes, it matters less to me, as long as they're there advocating for those who are having a harder time. I think the combination of both our modest efforts at home plus living here in the Bay Area, sending them to a great school that really instills these values in them, I think they're going to come out okay. Whether or not they march in every Pride March matters less to me, to be honest. I don't think I'm going to march in every march.
Yeah, my great hope is, I'm sorry, Frank, but I just want to let you know, Frank, that Nick still reaches out and grabs both Gary's and my hand, and he's almost 12. So you got some years, coming to you.
Thank you.
And it is
very happy.
It's a wonderful feeling. It truly is. Just hearing our experiences and knowing that we're speaking with parents who are on just the very beginning of the journey, it makes me so happy. And that's really what I want for Nick. I want Nick to experience life as a happy person. I hear you, Frank, about trials and travails of coming out, and I think we're all going to screw up our kids somehow because we're just who we are. When you let that go and you're just honest and love your child and they know that you love them, that's the kind of happiness that I want for him. Just to know that he is so brilliantly wanted and loved, and that he carries that feeling inside of him.
I couldn't agree with both of you more. I mean, all I want is we must tell our kid at least 3, as many times a day that we love him. He definitely does not know that he doesn't love, that he's not loved. But I just want him to be a happy kid. And I do hope that he's an advocate for less fortunate people, or people that, I don't really know. I already see him being a teacher and helping others. So I hope he continues in that way. He's a confident little boy, and I hope he stays that way. And it's funny, I asked him the other day if he was gay or straight, and I think, why would I ask my kid that? Because it was such a torment for me. And like others have said, it does, there's such a huge spectrum. He has no idea. And it's funny because I always wondered why people, like, how come no one knew that I was gay growing up? Or if I played with a doll growing up, that meant I was gay. My son plays with Barbies. He plays with, he plays sports. I don't know what any of it means, but all I know is that one day I hope he finds who he is, and we will support him no matter what.
Jens, what about you?
Well, most people here, of course, or everybody here knows these studies about kids, growing up with two mothers or two fathers, and all these studies show that our kids don't have any disadvantages in their developmental, development and their developmental being. It's more so the opposite, because they get these nuances and they question things more than others, perhaps, and we give them, this awareness, obviously, and the pride and all our experiences. We tell them our stories, our coming out stories and all of that, and so because of that, I'm very confident that they are going to be, hopefully, your story really resonated. That your 20-year-old, that he's found his own way, to tell the story. And I think Greta is on a good way, and I think she's already there almost. With the 6-year-old, I don't know. He's a baby. He's a child. He's interested in Star Wars and fantasy and all of that. But I'm very confident, that they're both both going their way. Because we gave them and we continue to give them this awareness and give them what we can, and the love, and that's all you can do. I mean, all of them, they're different, they're individuals too. So each of them will develop the way they are, and differently. And I think you have to respect that as well, and be prepared for everything.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to make shifts. And I think the challenge for us as parents is, how do we acknowledge them and see them while they're happening? I think too often we don't notice them until we've stepped over them, and then our children have reminded us that the change has happened. And they do that in a variety of ways. I will tell you, Frank, my son does not hold my hand anymore. But that's because he's like 7.5 inches taller than I am, and it's really awkward. But he does wrap his arm around my neck and call me short stack. So it's still there. My 15-year-old still holds my hand. So that's still happening. So we have about 1.5 minutes left. Before I turn it back over to Lisa, tomorrow here in the United States is Father's Day. So first of all, happy Father's Day to all of you. I hope you have wonderful plans. Do you have a plan for Father's Day? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm taking the family tomorrow. I'm totally random, to Train Town in Sonoma, which is a fun little amusement park that it just opened this week after a year that they were closed during COVID. The kids love that. And then we're going to have a nice lunch in Sonoma and back home for yet another day.
Beautiful.
We're spending the day. We focus Father's Day on my father and my husband's father mostly. It's hard with two fathers. We don't take too many, holidays very seriously. We're so proud and happy that we can be fathers, but we're going to my sister's house, spending the day at the pool with my dad.
Nice. Anthony,
Coney Island for us.
Good. Jens, is Father's Day in Germany tomorrow?
No, our Father's Day was already about 3 weeks ago.
About 3 weeks ago.
But of course, we also celebrate Mother's Day. I'm sure you guys do too. And by the way, I'm having a drink here because it's 6 hours later. So I'm at 8 o'clock now. And my kids are in the pool.
We don't judge.
You don't judge. Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm gonna join them in the pool now.
Wonderful. So for Father's Day, what I'm doing this year actually is I'm giving my children a present for Father's Day. I wrote a book called Stories for My Children. And what I did is I captured all of our stories and filled it with photographs, because, and it's coincidentally that we're having this conversation today because I felt it was really important as my kids launch, that I give them something that says, I want you to remember what this journey was. And so tomorrow they're getting a book about the journey. And close up, this is a picture of when they were little, my nuggets. And I'm very much looking forward to a very special Father's Day. So
is this something we could put in our book guide, book fair, or is it something?
Oh no, this is private just for us. This is our private stories. It's letters from me to them. So yeah, but thank you. Lisa, back to you.
Listen, guys, this is whatever people do for Pride or for Father's Day, etc. Whatever we feel, I think these are the kids of first generation native inequality land.
That's right.
You know, it's like they were born into something that we cannot comprehend. So regardless of the nuances I heard here, and driving with my own experience, I think what is unique, what is common to all of those is that we cannot even understand their perspective, but their perspective is so sometimes nonchalant, but native to this. For them, you know, so this is amazing. I think this has been a terrific panel. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I was so glad I was not on camera as I was tearing up. It was such a wonderful, emotional panel. I absolutely loved listening along to all of you. I'm wishing you all a very happy Father's Day tomorrow or 3 weeks in the past there. But thank you all so much for joining us today. And for those of you guys joining and listening along, we hope to see you at our next event. If you are in the New York area, definitely next week on the 27th, Ron and I would love to see you in person. We cannot wait to see all of you in person. And please check out our website, menhavingbabies.org, for all of our upcoming events. We have a lot of upcoming webinars in July, especially. So check out our virtual events and our in-person events, our conferences kicking off with New York in September, but we'll be New York, Chicago, Brussels, and Tel Aviv. So no matter what corner of the earth you are on, we want to see you in person this year, or if not next year. We are so very excited to be being able to see everybody in person again. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to our wonderful panel here today. And thank you for those of you who joined us on your Saturday. So happy Father's Day and happy
Pride.
Happy Father's Day, happy Pride.
Thank you.
Bye.
Friday.